Hello everyone and welcome back to our online course. We're here today with Stephan Beier, who is amongst other things an expert on quality assurance, and he's even given a talk about, well, why QA at the GDC in San Francisco this year. And he has kindly agreed to tell us a bit about his insights on this topic. So you have worked on a number of really interesting projects in your past. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi guys. I've spent about 10 years in quality assurance. I'm currently production director at Travian Games, but in the past I've been doing QA on development teams as well as on the publishing side and on outsourcing side. And I guess one of the bigger titles I've worked on are NBA Live 2005, Total Club Management, Command and Conquer, but also the Anno 1701 game. So
that's impressive. I have loved Command and Conquer back in the days. It's been a while now. So that's a nice introduction, thank you. And why do you think QA, in short for quality assurance, is so important nowadays?
Well, I guess that standards and the expectations of people have risen over the last couple of years, and if a product doesn't fulfill the quality expectations, the user is going to pick something else.
Yeah, I guess you're right. From a player perspective, I remember a game where I was actually stuck behind a point of no return and wasn't able to advance anymore, couldn't go back, and I'm one of those players who only keep a single save file, so I had to start over and couldn't be bothered. And when that word gets out, then you're doomed as a game development or game creator. So how would you say one should approach QA in a game, generally speaking?
Well, I guess the first rule is start your QA in the beginning of the project and not when the game is finished. And in the beginning you should sit together with top management or the game team and make sure that you have shared goals for your QA and prioritize those. Then look how you can make these goals operable, measurable, and then you look what is it you need to do to achieve your criteria, and set up some tasks, put time estimates on it, and look at what stage of the production you need to proceed with these tasks.
So you mentioned goals, sitting with top management and agreeing on goals. What are some of the typical goals you could agree on?
Well, obviously you want to find all the critical bugs in the game, preferably before release. You want to have a good level of quality in the builds that are being released, especially post-launch, and the builds that are being delivered to publishers. But you also want to make sure that your payment systems work all the time, because that's how we make our money. And you also have some qualitative interests, so you want to make sure that your game is fun to play, that it's easy to access, and that people know how to use your game, because if they don't know how they can reach something within the game, that's a reason for them to drop out, and that's something we don't want to happen.
How can QA measure if a game is fun to play?
They're actually the only guys who can measure that, because there is no index, there's no technical number that if you got 89 points then your game is fun, but fun is something that's a subjective feeling, and if you bring your game into the hands of some game enthusiasts and they like it and they give you good feedback about it, then the people out there will likely do the same. And even if you only have a small group, 5 people, what they tell you is usually significant enough to tell you whether you have a major flaw in your game, especially on a qualitative side, or whether your game is fun.
Cool. I didn't know that. Especially because when you work on a title for a certain period of time, some may think that playing the same thing over and over again might get boring to some. So,
when you do your qualitative reviews, do that with people that have not seen the game before.
yeah.
You know, the guys that work on your title and that are sitting within the dev team, they are best at finding exceptions in really rare situations. They'll really dig down deep into the game mechanics, and they find every loophole and every exploit that's there. But
Before the players do that?
yeah, hopefully. But you need to bring fresh eyes on. When you want to get an honest opinion about the game, show it to people that don't know the game.
So that's called focus or user group testing.
Yeah.
So obviously when you are working on QA, then you have to work with, or when you're working on a game, then you have to collaborate with other people from the company. And a game company usually has a lot of areas of business. How do you work with other departments, for example? Does that affect QA at all, this collaboration thing?
Yeah, it's a big thing. Because the first thing you need to do when you're working in QA is make them understand that you're a supporting task, and you're not the guys that break the game and have fun doing so. Even though that's a little part of our job, and we like that. But seriously, it's important that you show what you can provide to the development of the game, and that means that you need to integrate QA phases into the different production cycles, whether that's in level production where you can already test the timing of a map in a shooter when the level is just white box and there's no props in it, or whether it is that you check the payment systems before they go live worldwide and you have 6-digit players relying on that and trying to get money from these guys whenever they want to buy something in your game. Or just sitting down with the dev team and talking to them what they just implemented, because the tasks are usually written in techie, and the players are usually black box testers that are not able to code, so they need to understand what it actually means to the player. How is this testable, so we get valid tickets that the dev team can work with.
Okay. And you mentioned the different project stages, and there's some people may believe that QA only starts after a game has been finished. Others may think that you don't need to start doing anything before the programmers have actually created some code, but I think you can also involve QA much earlier at a concept or a pre-production stage.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, it's pretty simple. The earlier you find a mistake, the cheaper it is to fix it. And when you're in pre-production, one of the major things that's being worked on during pre-production is the writing of the game concepts. You try to get coverage from a design point of view, and there might be several people working in game design, and if you have somebody to read the designs and make sure there's no contradictions in there, and you point these out and the concepts get changed, then that's way cheaper than having a complete game and then figuring out that game modes are actually contradictory and you need to break them and invest a lot of time into coding to make things well-rounded and fun again.
Okay, so QA those concepts. Aside from all of those benefits that quality assurance can provide, that is usually the first thing that still gets cut out when it comes to budgeting. So it's sometimes really hard to sell including QA budget into the project costs because of misconceptions like, well, we just need to write good code, or the players can test it for us. but it's still important to include QA. How do you usually try and sell QA to top management or budgeting people?
It's pretty hard to give QA accountability for their share in the value of the product. I feared a lot that if a game was good, then the dev team did a great job, and if the game was not doing well and it was buggy, then it was like, why did we pay guys in QA at all?
They're always on the losing side, I guess.
Well, there's still a lot of lobbying to do, but I think in the day and age of KPI-driven development, QA also benefits from that. I mean, we've looked at tutorial funnels, so we're looking at how many people are able to finish a tutorial before optimization by QA and after. And we were able to increase the numbers from 55% to 76%. And if you have hundreds of thousands of people playing your tutorial, those numbers add up. And if you take an average revenue per user of €1, well, it's pretty simple to compare the numbers and see whether it's worth investing into QA.
That's true. Just for those who might not know, what are KPI and tutorial funnel?
Well, KPIs are key performance indicators, and the tutorial funnel is the amount of players that start is 100%, and for every step you see how many of these players are still in there. And so you have the percentage numbers and you have the total number of players. And we've actually looked at those numbers in some of our games, and we decided to optimize the tutorial earlier on.
Yeah, 20% difference does sound incredible. And one last question is, nowadays especially that we are heavily investing into browser games and continuous development even after the initial release, I guess you at some point have to make the decision when to release a game, because there will always be a conscious decision on when maybe to leave a minor bug in because the cost of fixing it is too high and the impact is very low, or some bugs you might only find at a later point from after a certain amount of players or playtime, whatever. So how do you decide when to just push it out to the public?
Yeah, I guess it's harder nowadays to make that decision. In the old times of console titles where you had to get through a submission by a first party, obviously you had to remove all the compliance issues in your game, plus the game wasn't allowed to crash, and all the major mistakes had to be out. And nowadays, well, you can basically release whenever you want to, but you want to make sure that your core game loop is clean, because that's the thing that usually hooks the players and gets them to come back into your game. And you have some accompanying features like guilds or something that are either being launched post-release or that can be optimized and adjusted. And you can actually put out some features that are not polished and ask the players whether they like them, whether it makes sense to invest into them, or whether you cut them out. And so you can actually make a good prioritization where your dev team should put the focus on.
And one last thing from me is a lot of people think that QA is just an entry point to the games industry and it's just like a stepping stone and that you cannot make a real career out of it. But that is a very common misconception, and it's just not true. You can make a really good career out of QA. Best example, 10 years in QA, doing pretty well with it, now an expert, and now moved on to production, what was it, director?
Production director.
Wow. It's one of my goals. Maybe I should go back to QA and become head of it, or so.
Well, you have a position on my title.
I think I'm really happy as an evangelist for now. Well, thank you for your time and for your insight.
It's been a pleasure.
And if you have any questions, then feel free to post some comments. Thanks for watching in.
Cheers, guys.